Okay, so imagine an airline, right? They sell like 200 tickets for a flight, but there's literally only 100 seats on the plane.
Just a complete disaster waiting to happen.
Exactly. Guaranteed chaos. I mean, you just simply cannot fit more passengers than you have physical capacity for.
Ugh.
But for some reason, we do this with our own lives every single day.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely do.
We treat our time and energy like an airplane with infinite seats, just agreeing to every single request that comes our way, whether it's picking up an extra project at work or committing to be a guest on a new podcast when you definitely do not have the time.
Yeah, and honestly, that constant overbooking is the absolute fastest route to emotional and spiritual burnout.
Right.
It's just a completely unsustainable way to live, which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today, specifically for you listening. We are exploring a really fascinating concept from a devotional text.
It's a chapter called Day 27.
Right. And it completely flips the script on how we view the word no. It takes something that usually triggers massive guilt for a lot of us and reframes it as a profound act of wisdom.
It really comes down to this brutal but unavoidable math. I mean, every meaningful yes you give inherently requires the courage to say no to something else.
Yeah, it's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. The text actually points back to a foundational scripture for this idea from James chapter 5. It says, let your yes be yes and your no, no, because you can't actually have a meaningful yes if you never use the word no.
That is so true. A yes without a boundary isn't a real commitment. It's really just a reaction. When you start seeing your energy as a finite resource, saying no becomes this critical tool for prioritization rather than, an act of selfishness.
Okay, so that makes logical sense on a spreadsheet.
Sure.
But in reality,
Yeah.
I think most of us, especially you listening right now, probably equate being a loving person with being endlessly available.
Oh, 100%.
There is this huge unspoken assumption that a truly good person just drops everything for anyone who needs help.
It's an incredibly common assumption, but the text completely dismantles it by looking at the historical example of Jesus. I mean, he is universally recognized for loving people, right?
Right, of course.
Yet he didn't try to satisfy everyone's expectations, like at all. He frequently withdrew from these massive crowds just to pray.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He actually declined requests and refused to go to certain places because he had to stay perfectly aligned with God's will.
So loving someone doesn't actually mean operating as their on-call genie.
Not at all.
If Jesus himself needed to step away and say no to people in need, the idea that we are somehow obligated to be available 24/7 is actually a bit arrogant when you think about it.
It really is. It puts our own limitations into perspective. And the text has the central life principle that summarizes the dynamic beautifully. It says, healthy boundaries do not keep love out. They protect what God has placed within.
I love that. Like a fence around a garden.
Yes, exactly. You don't build a fence because you hate the outside world.
Right.
You build it because you are cultivating something vulnerable inside that needs protection to grow.
But when you operate entirely out of a fear of disappointing others, like when people-pleasing is in the driver's seat of your schedule, you are essentially tearing down that garden fence.
And just letting everything get trampled.
Right. The text has a really stark warning here. You might avoid a little conflict in the moment by saying yes, but the long-term cost is massive.
Huge. You end up sacrificing your peace, your family time, your purpose. You're ultimately exchanging God's best for temporary human approval.
Which is a terrible trade.
It's the worst trade. And avoiding it requires more than just feeling guilty about an overbooked calendar. It requires action. So today's action from the text for you listening is to identify just one weak boundary and make a practical change today.
So that could be protecting your devotional time by putting your phone in another room, or maybe just politely declining an unnecessary commitment.
Yeah, it's about choosing faithfulness over the fear of letting someone down. The text closes with this really powerful quote. It says, you do not honor God by saying yes to everything you honor him, by saying yes to what he has called you to do.
Wow. So to wrap up this deep dive, saying no isn't a rejection of the world around you. It is fundamentally an act of protection.
Yeah, it's guarding the garden.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to ponder today. We've talked about identifying your weak boundaries, but if you audited your calendar right now, treating every single commitment like a passenger on that overbooked flight we talked about earlier.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
What hidden fears of disappointing others would your current schedule actually reveal?